Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Texas Counts Weekly Update. We just opened up the webinar, so folks are coming in now. We will be getting started in about 2 minutes, but thank you again so much for joining us today on Zoom and on Facebook Live, and we'll get started shortly. Thank you. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Again, welcome everyone to the Texas Counts Weekly Update. Happy Monday. Today is April 27th. Thank you for joining us today. As you know, we have the amazing Dr. Lila Valencia, who gives us updates on the self-response rate in Texas. We also have Genesis Sanchez from the Leo Educational Fund, and she will review the census operations. And then my name is Katie Martin Lightfoot, and I'm from the Center for Public Policy Priorities, and I will be doing some updates on Get Out the Count efforts in Texas. And so, as you know, we always start off our webinar with a quick welcome. So welcome everyone. Hope everyone is safe and well during this time, that your loved ones are as well. After that, not Lila, Genesis will give us some 2020 census updates. Then Lila will walk us through the data. We'll wrap things up with Get Out the Count efforts, and then we'll reserve some time at the end for questions. Throughout these webinars, we've been doing kind of questions throughout the entire series, or throughout the entire recording. So please feel free to pop any questions you have in the chat box, but also you can also use the Q&A function as well, and we'll try to respond to those in a timely manner and get to all the questions that you have. I also popped this week's slide deck into the chat box, so hopefully you all can access that, and through that you'll be able to access the links that are in this presentation. But without further ado, I will pass it over to Genesis to walk us through some 2020 census updates.
Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. Do we want to, Katie, could you move to the next slide, please? Thank you. Thanks you, everybody, again for joining us. I don't have a ton of updates. I do just want to share some kind of overarching news on different operational pieces that are happening with the Bureau. As of today, we don't have an update on the statutory relief request that was asked of Congress. So as we mentioned last week, the operational deadlines have been extended, but the requests in terms of those statutory deadlines has not been, we don't have an answer yet on that. So we're still waiting to hear. And so just as a reminder, the self-response and field data collection has been extended from the July 31st original date to October 31st. Many of you may have noted this, but the last mailings are also delayed. So the fourth mailing, the reminder and paper questionnaire, is set to go out from April 8th through the 30th. So we're kind of rounding out this week. The fifth mailing, which is just a last reminder, and it essentially says, please make sure, it's not too late to respond. Please make sure to respond to your 2020 census, is rolling out starting today through May 9th. And then I didn't want to spend too much time because I know it's a lot of dates, but if you want to take a look at what those operational shifts are in terms of dates, you can click through this link here, and I'll also throw it into the chat in a minute. If we've been hearing some reports about issues with phone responses that folks are are calling in and asking to record their response, and Bureau specialists are telling them that, hey, you need your census ID. This hasn't been true ever. You can still respond online by phone without that response ID. So if you're hearing any of these, please let us know. We do want to kind of have, if this is an ongoing issue, we do want to make sure to communicate with the Bureau on this. I also wanted to flag that on May 4th, the Census Bureau's Statistics in School program will release a new Parents Toolkit with the hope that parents who are at home having to homeschool their kids or to have a little bit more oversight of their children's education will have some of these tools to incorporate census into their, already daily, kind of the work that they're already doing with their kids. So we're excited for that. Next slide, please. So I also wanted to point out that there is another survey going on out now. The purpose, this is called the Household Pulse Survey. And the purpose of this survey is essentially how can the Bureau measure how COVID-19 is upending life for US households? They're doing this in collaboration with a number of other agencies. And so the idea is the questions, which you can find here as well, are questions like, has your employment been affected? Has your education been impacted by the current situations? Are you eating? Really questions about how your people are living right now. About close to 14 million people will receive the survey by email, and the emails will come from this email address noted here, which is covid.survey@census.gov. So we know this is a little, it's hard, right? Because we already have one survey out in the field, which is the 2020 census, and which is the focus of our work right now. But the Bureau does very frequently send out surveys along with the 2020 census. They had to put a pause on that because of COVID-19. So this is an opportunity for them to kind of measure how households in the US are living right now. So we're just sharing this information in case you get questions from people that they got something. Please just ask if, where did they get the email from? If it's this email, then it is legitimate. And then you can see the questions here. So that way you can kind of ask and answer some of the questions that are there as well. Next slide, please. Katie. Thank you, Katie. And then lastly, I just wanted to flag again that we have a lot of resources on our website. So if you go to hagasecontar.org/resources, you can find a lot of our toolkits and our guides. So we created guides on answering the questions for Census 2020, as well as a FAQ about Census 20, and then our digital communications and outreach toolkit. And all of these are in Spanish and in English. So as you continue to do this work, please feel free to reference them, to print them out, to share them however you see fit. And then the last thing I'll share is that on Thursday is Dia de los Niños, and this is a holiday that's very important to Latino communities. It's our opportunity to kind of highlight our children. And so I'll be doing a town hall with El Paso partners. But if there's anything that you would like to do, if you have a platform or if you work very closely with children, we'd love to hear what you're planning on doing for Dia de los Niños. And in addition, if you need more support, feel free to reach out, and I'm more than happy to collaborate and help. And then with that, there's one question. So will there be an additional mailing added since the reporting has been pushed out to October 31st? As of right now, we have not seen any news about additional mailings, but we will keep you informed once we hear about them. I think that since much of right now what they have done is extended the period of mailings, partly to kind of compensate for some of that time, but also because there's delays on both the part of the Bureau and the US Postal Service. So that's where the additional mailings may come in, but as of now, we still only are reporting 5 mailings. But if that changes, we'll make sure to let you all know. And
Great,
pass it back to you, Katie. Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Genesis. There is another question, but we're going to hold off on that one, Marisol. But we will answer it at the end, promise, when we go into the get out the count strategies. But now I want to pass it off to Dr. Lila Valencia, and she's going to walk us through the self-response data in Texas and also share a really exciting new tool.
Thank you, Katie. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This, what is this? I think this is like our sixth weekly update meeting that we've had. So thanks for hanging in there with us. We do have a new tool to share, but I'm going to start, if you will go to the next slide, Katie, with the three sort of regular tools that we have been using to monitor self-response. So you've got the self-response map that's available by the Census Bureau. You've got the CUNY Heart Count map, which allows you to drill down into well, you can use it for, you know, both top level sort of geographies, but you can also use it to drill down into the areas of interest for you and gain additional characteristics for those areas. And then there's the Census Bureau's Tableau dashboard, which is really helpful, I find, for quick posts on social media, because it gives you quick national rankings and rankings by county, rankings by city for your particular state. So if you'll go to the next slide, Katie. Thank you. So let me give you a quick update where we are right now. I've got kind of good news. Texas has actually moved up to 38th. We're tied with North Carolina right now in terms of self-response. Both states have a 48.5% response. So that means that 48.5% of all of the households that have received information from the Census Bureau have responded. Now, this is still well below the national average of 53.2% response, and Minnesota continues to outrank all of the other states, and it has a 63.9% response, and this is as of yesterday. So we have an estimated 78.7 million households, and that includes about 5.9 million households here in Texas. I've circled on the image where you would need to go to see the dashboard and where you could share information from this map, from this data visualization on social media or with other people that you share this type of information with. On the next slide, please. So here is a little bit more of the Census Bureau self-response map, right? You're able to look at the state on its own, and we can see, you know, that the population triangle of Texas is still where we are seeing the highest response rates for the state, with the additional Randall County right south of Amarillo in the Panhandle, and San Angelo or Tom Green County in West Texas also doing fairly well. We now have 27 counties that have 50% and above response rates. So they've counted more than half of the households in their county. So that's really great news. And I'll go ahead and share with you a little bit more of a particular county that's reached the 50% plus threshold in our tool that I'll share in just a little bit. Next slide, please. So here's the daily response for the state and for the US. And so I've mentioned this a couple of times, but we started off really strong. The average daily increase was about 1.9 before census day. So we were increasing our response rate, by almost 2 full percentage points. On actual census day, we increased that to 3.1. So we added over a full 3 percentage points to our response rate just on that one day alone. Since then, however, our response rates have dropped to 0.5 percentage point per day. And so you can see that that's, not unique to Texas. The national post-census day average response is also fairly low. But there are a couple of places where, for instance, April 21st and April 23rd, we saw, some slightly higher average daily increases for the US, and Texas lagged a little bit behind, but we kind of made up for that, on the 22nd. Regardless, we're at 48.5%. And I think we really do need to take advantage of opportunities like what Genesis was describing with the Dia de los Niños event, Memorial Day coming up, Mother's Day coming up, other significant milestones that people can relate to that we can tie the decennial census to. We really want to be able to, to increase awareness all together as a coalition to really kind of, I don't know that we would reach or be able to redo the 3 percentage point increase, but it would be great for us to try to come together and do a sort of collective effort in trying to get that response rate up. So I'll keep sharing that with you throughout the weeks to let you know where we are. Next slide, please. So this is the dashboard, just shows the quick rankings. And so you can see Rockwall County is still leading counties, and Mountain City, which is a city in Hayes County, is still leading among cities. But, just so you can see, sort of the left panel shows you that you can filter by different population sizes. You can look at just the cities or the townships, and you can look at whether what the response rate is like, comparing internet versus everything altogether. So you can also share this tool and the map. They have pretty easy share functions. And now I'll go ahead and share with you a little bit about the tool that we developed to help you look at some of the response rate and the different areas in Texas. On the next slide, please. So this is, again, I'm with the Demographic Center, right? We're the support staff for the state demographer. And so what we developed was this mapping dashboard that gives you sort of all of the information that is kind of important to look at, right? So we have the map in the middle, and then we've got some widgets that have different sets of information. So for instance, on the top right corner, you have the response rate for each of the census tracts. Beneath that, you've got the total population. And then we use the information from the CUNY hard to count map and took those hard to count characteristics and kind of put that in a widget at the bottom right corner, followed by percent of population of people of color. And then we've got whether they've got internet access, how they were contacted by the Census Bureau. And then above that, we compare the self-response for the census tract with the county that it's in, the state, and the country as a whole. And a lot of this is based on that select button that's on the top left corner. When you see that bolded and highlighted, that's when you know that your select feature is working, and you'll be able to select an individual census tract in the map and be able to see all of the information in those widgets sort of adjust to what you're looking at. So on the next slide, I selected a census tract in McClellan County. McClellan County, Waco is the county seat for McClellan. McClellan is one of the counties that recently reached the 50+ census self-response rate. And so we wanted to feature it just a little bit, but you see there that I've selected a census tract, and this census tract is a slightly lower in response rate than the county as a whole. The county is doing better than the state, and then of course the state is still underperforming compared to the national average. But you see here that the Census Bureau contacted this census tract mostly through internet choice bilingual. So we know that the people who live in this place are probably, they speak another language, and they received this information in Spanish, and they actually received a paper form in their mailbox upon initial invitation. We also see that they've got more than 50% internet access, but there's still, a significant percent that doesn't have internet access. And we see that the percentage of the population in this census tract is well over 60% Hispanic, with about 15% African American, some Asian, and some American Indian. And then we can see that this is a census tract with high poverty level, and it's got a total population of about 3,800 people, right? So you're able to sort of look to see what the performance is, as well as some key characteristics. We actually included all of the CUNY hard to count characteristics, and in the little up arrow in the middle of the bottom of the screen, you're actually able to lift that up and you're able to see all of the data in tabular format, including the characteristics that we don't include in these widgets. Now, if you'll go on to this next slide, I share another census tract in McClellan County. And one of the things that you'll notice right away is that the all of the information gets readjusted, right? So we see that this census tract has a really low response of less than 10%. If you look at the bottom right corner, right away what stands out is that this is a group quarters area. And this is actually where Baylor University is located. And so there is no information for Census Bureau contact strategy because they didn't mail anything to them, right? So they didn't reach out to these students because the university is helping them to get that count done. Now, the university clearly needs some help because their count is really, really low right now, but you can see that it adjusts all of these statistics on percent of people of color, internet access, whether there's a group quarters, and the response rate depending on which census tract you zoom into. And so I encourage you to click on that link and feel free to explore it, look to see if you get information that is useful to you. You can, enter your own address, see how your neighborhood is doing. You can, enter particular areas of the place where you are working to get out the count and see how the different census tracts are performing. And then of course, on the top right, we have a way that you can share that. You feel free, this is a public tool. So feel free to share this with partners that you're working with people, stakeholders. Feel free to share this on your social media. And if you have any comments as you're going through it or any issues, definitely reach out to us, and we definitely want to hear your feedback and your impression of the tool. So I just wanted to share that with you really quickly. I know I didn't, do any sort of real examples, but just wanted to share all of these individual widgets can also be expanded to full screen. So this tool works best, it's optimized for about a 50% zoom on your laptop or monitor. So if you're finding that you're not seeing all of the widgets, just go to the zoom settings on your browser and change that to about 67 or 50%, and you should be able to see the view that I have here. And that's all I have for you today. I think on the next slide, the only thing that I have is that I have found it really helpful, and kind of, I find that some of the social media posts that we put out from the Texas Demographics Center that include a little sense of competition or challenge can generate a few more views and a few more retweets. So I try to include there things like, I think this last weekend, we challenged Dallas County and Lubbock County and Smith County to get past that 50% response rate. And I'm not going to take credit and say that, we did get there. All three of those geographies did go past 50%. Of course, it's because of the work that all of you are doing. But I do think it's interesting, to sort of call someone out on Twitter and social media and be like, hey, we're watching, how's your area doing? Are you guys responding? We did the same thing with North Carolina. The state demographer in North Carolina used to be a UTSA alum from the Applied Demography program. And so we challenged them to see if we could catch up to them a couple of days ago. And now we have. And so Texas remains, with that challenge, hoping to not only tie North Carolina, but surpass them in response rate. And I just think that this toolkit here has a lot of useful examples on how you can sort of challenge and sort of create those own challenges for your area. So I encourage you to take a look at that and continue to share the response rates on your social media for your area. And that's all I have. Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Lila. I'm checking to see if we have any questions specific to the data. Just one, I know you were talking about challenges, and Willie shared that they did a Facebook census challenge with the churches that they work with, and it ended up going really well. So whether you are doing a smaller challenge with faith leaders, or if you're competing with other states, I think, like to Lila's point, that challenges are working well. Lisa asked, what do we attribute to the higher participation by particular counties? I'll respond to this, and then Lila, Genesis, if you want to chime in. Just for Texas Counts, we are doing some research and kind of our homework and reaching out to these counties to kind of figure out what the secret sauce is, what the magic is. And so we're hoping to kind of collect that information and report out to folks soon, but do know that we are looking into it. And I'm not sure, Genesis or Lila, if you wanted to add anything else.
I know that some partners will keep track of a particular effort that they put in place to really monitor effectiveness. And so, for instance, one of the Census Bureau partnership specialists that's working down in South Texas told us about a particular census tract in Eagle Pass. They got together with the paleteros and the elote trucks that use the megaphones to sell ice cream and elotes and other treats through the neighborhood. They used that to, announce that, people could go online to fill out the census, or, to check their mail, and just reminding people to complete the census. And they saw an increase in their response rate in that particular area. And this was a census tract that actually had really low performance in terms of self-response in 2010. They actually surpassed their 2010 self-response already after that effort. And they still have a long way to go because the response rate was so low to begin with. But that's one way that we know that people are keeping track of, different efforts that they're putting in place. But like Katie said, some of these really high performing areas, we don't know exactly if it's just one thing or if it's a number of efforts, but we're definitely working to try to understand better what they're doing so that we can recreate that all throughout the state.
Thanks, Lila. And then Genesis, I think this might be a question for you. So Marisol asked, are regular people, so non-Census Bureau employees, allowed to help others fill out the census? I know that there was talks of the Census Bureau potentially releasing some guidelines or restrictions around that, but Genesis, I'm not sure if you want to chime in.
Yeah, so as of right now, the Bureau has guidelines on what you can do to support more directly. So they do ask that people not complete the forms for others that are not in their household. However, we have asked them for updated guidance based, in this time and place, how can we adjust and help people, especially since there's not questionnaire assistance centers at the moment. So once we have more updated information on that, I will definitely share this on these calls, because I know that's something that folks really want to do. And our guess is that they'll change the guidelines to fit kind of a more virtual and phone-based assistance. So for now, I would hold on, but just know that we're kind of trying to get more guidance on this. Katie, I'll go ahead and answer field some of the Q&A.
That sounds great.
Thank you, Katie. So the first, I missed the first part of the webinar. Will you be emailing the recording? Yes. As always, we'll send out a copy of the slides in the recording in case you miss anything. Santiago asked, did you say that the dashboard can be searched for census tract and county?
Yes, so you can go, and I'm assuming that you're talking about the Census Bureau's dashboard. You can basically select your state and then it'll provide you rankings. If you're talking about the Texas Demographic Center's sort of like dashboard tool that I just presented, yes, it has a little search button in the map area, and you can go in there and search using that feature.
And then the last question that I'm seeing here, I have questions regarding the Texas Counts Pooled Grant implementation. Is anyone offering face-to-face response centers to the community? Katie, I don't know if you want to answer that question.
Let me, if it's okay, I'll follow up. I think I need a little bit more information, but if you do have any questions about the Texas Counts Pooled Fund, I will, the woman who oversees it, her name is Angela Broyles, and I'll put her email. I'll reach out to the person who asked this question to get a little bit more information. But let me follow up on that one. Thanks.
And then I also want to flag Willie shares. We did a Facebook challenge with churches. And I think this is with our churches, which really worked well. And I think this is a great idea in terms of implementing the challenge in a more localized way, where people kind of know each other and know the network. So thank you for putting that suggestion in the box. And then Maria suggests sending out the map response rates by county to city and to the city and county officials for them to help get word out on important announcements. I do know some cities and counties are sending kind of updates. It may be that they're only sending them in a more localized way, just to kind of the partners. I think, but it is a great suggestion of kind of using these tools to show people, you know, again, the challenges are supposed to, I think, highlight like, hey, these are places that are doing really well, like let's get into competition with them. And so this is a great way to use those tools. And then I think that's it for right now. I think we'll come back. Katie, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, thank you so much, Genesis. And y'all keep putting those questions in the chat box or in the Q&A box, and we will get them answered. So let's shift gear to 2020 Get Out the Count efforts. So we all know that the count continues, that we are in this work for the long haul. And again, just want to say a big thank you to all of you on the call joining us today. We could not do this without your efforts on the ground. And so thank you so much for continuing to persevere during this time. As Genesis shared, we know that the mailers are a little bit delayed, but coming soon to a mailbox near you, hopefully not to your household because you've already completed the census, but maybe some of your community members haven't yet. They will be sending the "It's Not Too Late to Respond" reminder. One thing that I did want to point out on this reminder, that it says in this little box, "Urgent, respond now to prevent an interview or visit to collect your responses." And so as a reminder to our communities, we want to remind them that the more households that are responding now means the less door knockers coming in August. And so again, we are in this very uncertain time. We're hoping that it will be safe for folks to start entering communities, but we really don't know. And so we really want to continue to remind folks that it's important to respond now so that we don't have to have more door knockers coming into our communities in August. If you remember last week, we did some polling to just get a little bit of information, get a pulse of what's working out in communities. And so I wanted to share those out with y'all quickly. But in terms of what Get Out the Count strategies are working for folks from the call last week, the majority of you all are pushing social media. So 80% said that your social media posts are working well. This is great news. Just to let you know, at Texas Counts, we are trying to streamline our communication strategy and hone that in a little bit better to make sure that we're giving you guys content that you can share out and it's readily available. And so please be on the lookout for that. I know many of you receive our Texas Counts newsletter as well, and there's always really great materials and resources in there that I highly encourage you to utilize. And of course, make sure you're following each other online so we can promote and amplify your efforts. Coming in next was providing materials to essential locations. I still think this is a really great, strong strategy. And so we know that means taking census materials that you might have been planning for in-person events and taking those to places where we know folks are frequenting. And we've heard a lot of really great ideas about how folks have been pivoting their strategies through that. And then of course, good old fashioned emails. So doing blasts, newsletters, etc. Again, a lot of this digital online presence, but also making sure we're reaching folks where they are in communities. In terms of concerns about the Get Out the Count efforts with the new deadline, really the themes were momentum, safety, and funding. And we hear you and we recognize these concerns. And at Texas Counts, we're thinking of how we can support our efforts and make sure we don't lose our momentum. But of course, we're doing our Get Out the Count efforts in a safe way. In terms of funding, I've been on the lookout to see if there is new funding opportunities, and we'll be sure to be sharing those out with folks, whether it's through this call or through the newsletter. And so please, of course, let us know how we can support your efforts, because we want to make sure that we get every Texan counted. And then one question that we also asked was just in terms of if folks were concerned about the implications to the two requests for the statutory deadline changes. It was kind of interesting to see the data, but as you can see, it's almost kind of split between people needing a little bit more information, not being too concerned, and then folks that are concerned. And so again, if you do have any further questions, we're happy to kind of walk you through what those implications are in terms of moving those deadlines back. And then last but not least, but possibly the one that gives me the most hope and excitement, is that people are really interested in doing another Census Day. And I put it in quotes because we know we can't just create another Census Day 2.0, but thinking about another event where we can get all Texans on board. We're having some conversations this week to kind of think through and finalize some details. And I'm hoping by next week we can kind of share out our initial ideas for this plan. But we're thinking June. So, but do know that we hear you. We want to get everyone in Texas on board in terms of this Get Out the Count effort. So more to come on that, but it is happening. Moving right along, I wanted to share just some different resources that are available to you right now. For those that aren't familiar with Texas Counts, we have been operating since last summer, and with Texas Counts, we modeled ourselves off of best practices when it comes to creating a CCC. And so we have had subcommittee groups meeting regularly since the fall, and so at this time, we're opening up our meetings to folks who are wanting to connect with other Texas Count Census champions that are working in your sector. So if you are in the faith, health, education sectors, and you're interested with connecting with folks from across Texas who are engaging in this work, I highly encourage you to attend one of the meetings this week. This is just going to be a space where, again, we'll share out some updates about the census, but we're hoping to really promote community for our folks across the state in our health sector who are still engaging in Get Out the Count efforts. And so this is a space where you can connect, share challenges, share ideas, and kind of have that camaraderie. We also have a nonprofit business and government subcommittee that meets. And so if you are interested, again, in connecting with folks in your sector who are still working on Get Out the Count efforts, please just shoot me an email at martin@cppp.org, and we will make sure that you get an invite to the next meeting. So please let us know if you have any other questions. And my date is wrong for the education subcommittee. It's this Thursday. I don't know why I wrote 420. I guess it must be 4:30. Yep, so it's April 30th for that education subcommittee. I apologize for my typo. Also, you know that we have been doing our Pivoting to Digital Census Outreach and Organizing series. Last week we did Instagram, and so we'll make sure that we share that recording. This week we'll be talking about live events, and so thinking about folks tuning into Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and streaming content. We'll kind of walk through what those best practices are. And then the following week, we'll be doing kind of a series recap, kind of taking a moment to review all of the really great resources that we've shared out. We'll be continuing this series for as long as folks are wanting to tune in. And so please let us know what type of content you would like to learn more about. We're happy to share out and get that information for you. Some trainings that are happening from our national partners from Census Counts. This is their digital organizing series. And so this Thursday, they have a Twitter census workshop. If you're interested in learning more about Twitter, I highly encourage you to check that out. Next Monday, unfortunately, it's the same time as our weekly counts update call, but did want to share that they have a training on how do I know if my census digital program is working. And so when you RSVP to these, let's say that you're like, no, I can't miss my weekly update. They'll send you the recording and slides, and they're also posted on their website as well. And so the RSVP link is here, but again, we'll make sure you get that when I send out the follow-up email. And then last but not least, I like to keep the slide in there for any folks who are new to our census community who need ideas about how to pivot. So just some ideas around that. And then of course, I have to share the 2020 census, their website to make sure we're responding, as well as those phone numbers in different languages as well. But yeah, we have lots of really exciting things in the work that we're really excited to share with you. And again, we are so thankful for y'all's perseverance during this time and continuing to get out the count. And I think I've seen my little chat box blinking, so I think we might have some questions. So we will reserve the rest of the time today for questions. So please get those in and we'll start responding.
So Katie, some folks have thrown in some suggestions, which I think are really great and valuable to share. Maria shares that in La Jolla ISD, they're working to implement a census awareness banners to increase response rates by placing them in the Wi-Fi buses that go out to the community to provide Wi-Fi for the students. I think this is a really great idea since you're reaching folks who likely don't have a lot of internet connectivity. That is an excellent idea. Jesus asks or shares that he would love help on a ESRI dashboard that focuses on RGV Colonia response rates as our org and partners are working. That he shares that he's been working on a map and he believes it would be a great resource for our efforts. So I'll let Dr. Valencia talk about this a little bit more if she'd like. And then,
yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, all I was going to say is, yes, Jesus, we would be happy to help you with that. You could actually also probably just use the tool that we have there. And if there are, other characteristics or other widgets that you'd like to see, we could definitely help you with that. You can create bookmarks so that, you can just easily go to the same place. Did you try to access the tool, or if anybody else tried to access the tool? Because I know somebody, Alice, I think, said she had trouble accessing the map. So if anybody else had issues accessing the map, if you'll let me know, because it's open, you don't need a login or anything. But please do let me know so we can make sure that that's working for everyone.
Great, thank you, Dr. Valencia. Maria also suggests and shares that they post QR codes in order to attract a younger generation into scanning and completing their online survey. This is also a really great idea that I've seen across the board. Our partners at the Houston Food Bank actually have done this. And so with every meal that goes out, they include a sticker with a QR code that links them directly to the census so that they can respond at their convenience. I think it's a great way of minimizing both material and really reaching people where they're at. We will send out a copy of the slides afterwards. And then Kimberly mentioned, I wonder if there's some sort of holiday that is a counting holiday, like International Siblings Day or Take Your Cat to Work Day. That's very cute. I think, yeah, part of the planning that we want to do as a coalition is to kind of think of a day that would have a big impact. But I'll take the moment to share that the Census Bureau will be doing a big media blitz on May 1st. So if you do have the capacity or ownership over social media for your orgs or partners, I would definitely, we can send out more information about this, but May 1st is a month after April 1st. So the idea is to kind of remind everybody again, like, hey, the census isn't over yet. We're still counting people. So make sure to get yourself counted. And taking advantage of, you know, and putting it in line with labor and unions, since it is May Day. So that's one suggestion. The other suggestion too is that Mother's Day is coming up. So having a message around Mother's Day and counting children is also going to be really important. And then Alice shares that the AACCC is using Blue Squad for census texting outreach tool. So if anybody is looking for a tool around that, that looks like it would be a good one. And then I think that might be it. I also want to take the opportunity to share that previously we have on these calls, we've shared guidance around update leave areas. So the Bureau is asking us to kind of hold out and if you have a population that is in that area, to please have people hold out until they get their update leave materials. If they've already responded, it's fine. But just know that some of these, as you guys can imagine, the Bureau is, you know, since their operations are delayed, they're kind of still trying to figure things out on their end. So if you do have a large population like that, we know that there's still confusion around it. So hopefully next week we have even more clarity on that. Alice mentions that May is Asian American Heritage Month. This is also another great thing to bring up, and using that theme to help count APIs in Texas. So definitely thank you for mentioning that. Maria asks, is there an age qualification for family members helping fill out the census online? I talked through phone, a young person was 15 years old, parents. Dr. Valencia, I think it is 15 years old. I can't remember.
You know what? I don't remember myself. But I think if you're doing that in paper, you know, there's, I think as long as the person is able to communicate the questions to their parents, you know, there's no real way to tell or confirm that, you know. But I guess it does ask you who the person is filling it out and their relationship to them. So it would have the person's age. Maybe we can get back to them on the specific age, but it's really going to depend also just on, you know, how comprehensive that is for the individual too. So
yeah, I do remember it was an age less than 18, but I'm not totally sure what age it was. So yes, we'll definitely get that information and send it out again. I think that might be all the questions that were there.
Well, there was that one outstanding question about whether regular people could help respond to the census. I don't know. I think, Katie, you said you might get back to that one. Or did we answer that already? Sorry.
No, it's okay.
No, you're fine. I think Genesis covered that one for us, and I think the short answer was we're still getting more information from the Census Bureau about best practices around that and what that might look like, and we'll make sure to share that out on our weekly update call. Is that right, Genesis?
No, you're fine. Yeah, I also will share that there is a GOTC guideline around this that the Bureau published a while ago. So we'll send that with the recording and the slides, but just know that we're still trying to figure out how to adjust to this new landscape, and I'm sure that the Bureau is as well. So those guidelines may change. So as with everything census, we we just have to keep an eye on things and try to keep up with each other.
Thanks, Genesis. And Cindy, to your point, we're really excited because we will be having Austin's AAPI Complete Count Committee join us next week to share out a lot of their really great tools that they've been doing in terms of digital strategy, but also kind of that thinking about reaching folks where they're at essential locations and texting and phone banks. So really excited to have them join us next week. And do want to do a quick plug. If you are doing something innovative or creative when it comes to your outreach efforts, we would love to feature you on our weekly update call. Please just shoot me an email at martin@cpp.org, and we'll give you some time during our Monday updates so you can share out about the great work you're doing. But I believe that we answered all of the questions. Wanted to thank you all again for joining us for your Monday lunch hour. We really enjoy doing these updates for y'all, and we're excited to have y'all continue to come back. But as always, please feel free to reach out if you need anything. We are here to support you, and we will see everyone next week. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.